script. I have a paper to keep me on script here, so I'll try to be quick through this. Let me just. So as Pastor Fred said, we've been attending here just about a year now. We moved from the other side of the hill over this way in anticipation of ultimately retiring. We're not quite there yet, but getting close. And my wife, Esther, and we've been married 46 years and plus. And our daughter, April and Raleigh, attend here also, and our 3 grandchildren, Ian, Tad, and Ivy. So we're calling this home and greatly enjoying it. So my testimony, I'll just give you a little bit of background as I get to the light. And if there's a verse that really underscores my testimony, it's John 8:12, where Jesus said, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." So as a child, perhaps not unlike many of you, I grew up in a very fractured home. There was no structure. There was no guidance. My parents divorced when I was very, very young, and my memories of childhood memories are not great memories. They're of arguments and of just things that most children shouldn't be exposed to. But that was all I knew. I didn't know any difference. And so I never really had any spiritual guidance, any direction. And we never, as a family, we never attended church. Easter and Christmas was simply, about bunnies and gifts. There was no spiritual connection to it whatsoever. So it was all foreign to me relative to God and who is He. In high school, I was a bit wayward. I am like many who don't have any guidance. I began just hanging out with the wrong crowd, participating in things I shouldn't participate in, and including psychedelics, including routinely, smoking marijuana, or we used to call it dope. I don't know what they call it now, but there's a lot of names. But nonetheless, it was all about what do we feel, what are we looking for, what's our gratification. It was all about, at that time for me, it was about getting high and about enjoying, what I could about the life I was in at that time. But as a senior in high school and continuing to still, look forward to the weekends and, smoke some dope with my buddies or something like that, or go to a concert, we were always looking for something new to do because each high left you wanting another high as soon as that one wore off. So it turns out that there was an event we had heard about, myself and a buddy, that was a preacher was in town, somebody who, and neither of us had ever really gone to church, but had heard this guy. He was somebody who sort of like moved around a lot. I think you'd call him a holy roller. And we thought that would be pretty entertaining for a Friday night to go see this holy roller. You'd seen a little bit on TV, but wanted to see one, up close and personal. And so we had planned that what we would do is we'd smoke some dope first, and we'd go to, the church and watch this guy. Oddly enough, we were running late and didn't have time to smoke, so we went right to the church. It was a full crowd. The preacher, I don't recall him jumping up and down too much. I think he was animated, but he did share how all of us have a hole in our heart, and we're trying to fill that hole. And that hole is a God-shaped hole. There's only one thing that will fill it. And it resonated with me because I was always trying to fill it with something. And whatever it was, it never lasted. So when he gave the invitation, he said, if you'd like to know this God who can fill that hole, please come forward. I went forward. I looked at my buddy. I was sure he'd go because I knew he was, speaking to all of us, but God was speaking to me. I went forward, prayed the sinner's prayer, didn't feel any different, and everything for me up to that point had been about feelings, as I shared, getting high and so on. But he just said, just have faith, just believe. And I said, okay, I'll give that a little bit of time, but if I don't feel something soon, then I got to let this pass. But he said, come back on Sunday. I came back on Sunday. The regular pastor was preaching, and then he gave an invitation. He said, if you'd like to know who God is and accept Christ, come forward. So I went forward again. I didn't know that, until you knew that he was there, I thought you just keep going. So I went forward again, and then and the pastor said, well, you've already accepted Christ, and by faith, you're a child of God. And I said, well, I still don't feel anything. I don't know that he's here. Nothing's any different to me. And he prayed, God, just reveal yourself to Rick in a special way. So, but he encouraged me to come back to church for the next few weeks. I did for a couple of weeks. And then I'd say probably about 2 or 3 weeks after that, I had a dream, and a dream or a vision, whatever you want to call it, but it's as vivid as anything I've ever had happen to me before. And the dream was I was sitting in church, much the size of this church, and there was a pew I was sitting in back about a dozen rows from the front, and there was a side door, much like this door here, and it was sort of an innate knowledge to know that, the buzz amongst all the people in the congregation was, hey, Jesus is going to visit us today. Okay, wow, that's great, So what I'm thinking, I don't know any different. And the door, it cracked just such a minor amount, not enough that, barely the doorknob turned, and this light went flooding through the whole sanctuary, and everyone just fell on their knees, fell prostrate. I had never felt that kind of light. I never felt that kind of love. And it wasn't like a blinding light that hurt you, but it was a light that was so powerful that you couldn't do anything but fall down and just be enveloped by it. And again, it didn't relate to any experience I had ever had up to that point, all of 18 years old in my life. But it was so powerful. And so that was, I think, what the pastor prayed for. Rick, God will reveal himself to you, and he did. And so I thank God for that. Now, 48 years and going, it's still as real now as it was then. So.
Good job. Thanks.